Lucasfilm is not developing Star Wars movies for Disney Plus streaming service. And keep in mind, Disney Plus is not just like Disney movies and Star Wars. We're talking about Pixar, Marvel, National Geographic. But while we have this laid up, and we finally have an image of the logo, which is exciting, but in an interview with Barron's, Disney CEO Bob Iger explained that while Disney plans to develop multiple movies per year that can be watched exclusively on Disney Plus, Star Wars is not immediately a part of their direct-to-streaming movie plans due to concerns about expenses. We have a quote here that I actually want to bring up right now, and this is also going to buy Jesse some time to find the button to his saber hilt. Almost every movie the studio makes is $100 million plus, and we're not looking to make movies at that level for the service. We're looking to invest significantly in television series on a per-episode business, and we're looking to make movies that are higher budget, but nothing like that. We wouldn't make a Star Wars movie for this platform when everybody goes out on the weekend and you have a movie that opens up to $200 million. There's a buzz that creates, that enhances value. We like that. And eventually the movies we're making are going to end up on the service.
You know, that makes perfect sense, because if you've got people paying, what, $4 or $5 for this service, and you've got a couple million of them, yet people are willing to drop 10, 12, 15, 18 bucks to go see a big Disney movie, big Star Wars movie on the big screen, why would you want to turn away that $200 million or more?
I think you have a lot of good points. I think the important thing to talk about here, though, with this is the fact that we have, for the first time, Bob Iger confirming we are only going to have theatrical releases in the movies, in the movie theater. And I think that's really important because there was some concern for a long time that movies would be shelved to the Disney streaming service. And then we started thinking, oh my goodness, that actually might not be a bad thing. Obi-Wan Kenobi, the standalone movies, maybe they would transition to the streaming service. Well, now what we're getting are Cassian Andor series, The Mandalorian. You're anticipating these series having hour-long episodes, and you got to think to yourself, well, those are mini movies in themselves. So if that kind of, and we think that those TV show type properties are going to have their own kind of visual storytelling elements. So let that live on the streaming service and keep those big saga epic stories on the big screen, kind of how they were intended. I mean, imagine if you would have seen the original 77 film. Well, I guess a lot of us did see it on the monitor, but not being able to see them on the big screen. I mean, that's that Death Star, not Death Star, but the Star Destroyer, that iconic scene. I mean, you need a whole place rattled by that scene to really like fall in love with that franchise. I mean, that's a great first moment for the series.
And quite honestly, I would prefer the streaming service to have TV shows because you can put out more content. So I've got the DC universe, and one of the things I'm struggling with is that it's $9 a month, and I watch it for 2 TV shows, but they're not putting out. I mean, they're putting out a lot of content in the next year, but it's a 1-hour episode at a time, or 3 20-minute episodes per week. So I'm only getting an extra hour of content. Now they've got a whole back category of things I can watch, which has been kind of nice, but in terms of new content, so I would rather see, if I'm going to be paying for another streaming service, more frequently released content, because that will help me buy into it. Because I'm almost tempted right now, since Titans is done and they just started Young Justice Outsiders, to drop DC Universe, wait until this show's over, pick it up for a month, and then drop it again for a couple months until the next show's over. Save myself, probably half a year's worth of paying for this.
So when we go to the movie theater, Jesse, we like to dress up in the cosplay, and we like to have the lightsaber activated, and we like to have the Jedi garb, and we like to take photos with the people in the cosplay. You can't do that if you release everything on the streaming service. So I have to imagine that you're pretty happy that we're still going to have that experience for many years to come of going to the theater for that new Star Wars movie.
You have to have the balance.
Yeah.
A balance and the force. If you
my goodness. Very good.
It's really what has to happen. I mean, it would be nice to see those like after the fact kind of thing, like, they make a Boba Fett movie and maybe 2 years after it's been out or something like that, you can fire up,
yeah, and I think
Disney
that's what
that's
what he's saying. He's saying that we're gonna make these movies in the theater, and then what we're gonna do is later down the road drop them, just like with Netflix. You had Rogue One, then it comes out, I don't know, 8-10 months later out on the streaming service.
Now, we had talked a couple weeks ago about what if they had done some of this TV show for like ABC? And Bob Iger in this interview continued to address that.
Yeah, go ahead. And can you add the quote for us?
Sure. He says, I guess we could have made Star Wars series for ABC if we wanted, but the budget and what we're spending on it and the nature of the material suggested it would be a perfect anchor for the new service. Because it's priority for the company, that needs to be reflected in the trafficking or the direction of where a lot of our content goes. There have to be some subjective decisions made on where stuff goes because we have to feed this new beast. And I like that they're taking the opportunity to think about this strategically, so they're not abandoning ABC and some of their other platforms, but they're adding this in addition to it. It just shows to you that they really know what they're doing down there.
Yeah, when I think about this, Jesse, like the story I think would be compromised when it comes to ABC because there's this particular audience that you're serving, right?
Yes.
So you're not able to have the gore. So can you kind of explain how you would envision the difference between an ABC family Star Wars story and what we're probably going to see on the streaming service?
When it comes to, I mean, you're in actual television business, so you know that there's certain things that you can't say or show on television, but, some of those barriers have been coming down. I mean, you look at like shows like The Walking Dead, which is like on AMC, and it's a very graphic show. Now, I don't think we'll ever see anything because that's just not Star Wars. You're not going to see, blood and guts, and I don't think there's been any curse words in any Star Wars movies.
They like to say hell a lot. That's not
Yeah,
really a
I
swear
think that's
word.
about it. As Han Empire says, "I'll see you in hell."
It's more of a travel destination.
Yeah, so I think that it's not something I'm worried about in regards to that. Keeping that story though is also important. A good balance. I think it'd be good to still have something for, like basically if I turn the TV on. Like your everyday television, watching versus firing up a streaming service. There needs to be both there.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I don't know. I keep going back to when George Lucas was trying to plow through his own live action series. And apparently there's 100 scripts somewhere in like the catacombs that Lucas had scripted for it. And at the time we thought it would be on like a major network. And if it would have ended up on like an ABC, I just feel like it probably would have been like a similar vibe to what you get with like Star Wars Rebels and maybe the earlier kind of Clone Wars, where it's like Diet Coke, and then maybe over time they start to push it, and it becomes a little bit more adult.
Was this in the 80s or 90s that he wanted to do that?
This was like in the late. I think this was like the early 2000s, man.
Because like early 2000s television action wasn't overly exciting.
No.
Unless you were on USA with like Burn Notice and some of those other.
I think now is the time you want something like this to happen. So like I'm really excited that we have all these series and that we have streaming is making the push. I think it's really good timing. And with this, I just want to remind you that if you're watching right now, be sure you comment in the live chat. Let us know what you think about Disney's plan to make sure that Disney streaming is only for these series of TV shows, and then after theatrical releases have been out for some time, then they'll add the videos. Seems pretty consistent with what they've done with Netflix. Or were you hoping to see this Disney Plus streaming service have exclusive Star Wars movies? Let us know in the comments below.
Thank you for watching Beyond the Blast Doors. Be sure to subscribe to our channel. Don't forget, give us a thumbs up and leave a comment. Beyond the Blast Doors, a Star Wars conversation.